Okay, section 2.2, homework question 2. Consider the weighted voting system where 12 is the quota, so you need 12 votes to pass a motion. And then player 1 has 10 votes, player 2 has 7, player 3 has 4, and player 4 has 1 vote. So which players are critical in the coalition P1, P2, P3? So you have to ask yourself who can leave, and the remaining players would still have 12 votes. So I like to put their vote count right above them. So this is 10, 7, and 4. So if player 1 left and said, you guys, I'm out, I'm not part of this team anymore, player 2 and player 3 would be left holding 11 votes. 7 and 4 make 11. So player 2 and player 3 together have 11 votes, which is not 12. It's less than 12. So they are no longer a winning coalition if player 1 leaves. That makes player 1 critical. So I'm going to underline player 1 to say they're critical. If player 2 leaves, that would leave player 1 and player 3 alone, right? Without player 2, we just have player 1 and player 3. Player 1 and player 3 together have 14 votes, which is more than 12. They can still pass a motion. They're still a winning coalition. So player 2 is not critical because if player 2 leaves, it doesn't really matter. They would still have a winning coalition. So we move to player 3. If player 3 leaves and takes their 4 votes with them, that leaves player 1 and player 2 alone with 17 votes, which is still enough to meet the 12 quota. So player 3 is not critical either. So only player 1 is critical. So that's the answer to part A is just player 1. Okay, for part B, we want to write down all the winning coalitions. A lot of people find it easier to just write down all the coalitions and then determine which of those coalitions are winners. Now, in your packet, I believe it's on one of the first pages, there is a list of all the possible coalitions for 4 players. You can just go look at that and copy it down. I'm just going to write them all down here. Okay, so I've just copied down all of the possible coalitions for a 4-player weighted voting system. I just copied this from the packet and I just looked it up. It's on page 5 of your packet. So now I just have to determine which of these are winners. Which of these, when you add up all the votes, adds up to 12 or more. In this case, 12 or more. So player 1 has 10 votes, which means that player 1 all by themselves is not a winning coalition. Player 2 has 7, less than 12, not enough. 4 and 1, not enough, not enough. Okay, player 1 and player 2, they have 10 and 7. That's a winning coalition. 17 is more than 12. Player 1 and player 3, that's 10 and 4, which is 14, more than 12. That's a winner. 1 and 4 is 10 and 1. 11 is not more than 12, not a winner. Player 2 and player 3, they have 7 and 4. That only makes 11, not a winning coalition. 2 and 4, that's 7 and 1, not a winning coalition. 3 and 4 is 4 votes and 1 vote, which is less than 12 votes. 1, 2, and 3 together, that's 10, 7, and 4. That adds up to more than 12, so we'll leave that one in as a winning coalition. 1, 2, and 4, so we have 10, 7, and 1. That's more than 12, so it's a winner. 1, 3, and 4 is 10, 4, and 1. That's more than 12. 2, 3, and 4 is 7, 4, and 1. And that adds up to 12 exactly, so that is a winner. You just need 12 to pass a motion. And then all 4 together would be 10, 7, 4, and 1, which adds up to more than 12, so that's also a winning coalition. So the ones that I have not crossed out are the winning coalitions. And now for part C, to find the Banzaf power distribution, we have to determine in these winning coalitions who is critical. Okay, so who can leave, who can't leave, right? So in this one right here, player 1 and player 2, if player 1 leaves, only player 2 remains, and player 2 would only have 7 votes. Now this team of 2, if player 1 leaves, it's just a team of 1 with only 7 votes. So player 1 is critical. Player 1 can't leave, or the team is no longer a winning coalition. Same with player 2. If player 2 leaves, player 1 is left all by themselves with only 10 votes, which is not the 12 that they need, so player 2 is critical. Player 1 and player 3, looking at the next coalition, if player 1 leaves, just ignore them, pretend they're gone. Player 3 is the only player left on the team, and they do not have enough votes to make 12. And if player 3 leaves, if they're gone, player 1 is the only player left, and they don't have 12 votes to pass a motion. So both players are critical here. Neither player can leave. Okay, moving to my next winning coalition. If player 1 were to leave, player 2 and player 3 would remain, and they have 11 votes between them, which is not enough to pass a motion. So that means player 1 is critical. Player 1 can't leave. If player 1 leaves, it's no longer a winning coalition. But if player 2 leaves and takes their 7 votes with them, imagine they're gone. Now only player 1 and player 3 remain, but together they have 14 votes, which can still pass a motion, which means player 2 is not critical. Player 2 can leave, and the remaining players can still pass a motion without them. So player 2 is not critical. Same with player 3. If player 3 left, the 2 remaining players would still have 17 votes, so player 3 is not critical in this coalition. All right, let's look at this one, 1, 2, and 4. If player 1 leaves, there's only 8 votes remaining, less than 12, so player 1 is critical. If player 2 leaves and takes their 7 votes, there's only 11 votes remaining, which is not 12 that you need, so player 2 is critical. But if player 4 leaves and takes their 1 vote, player 1 and player 2 still have 17 votes, so player 4 is not critical. They still have more than 12, so they can still pass a motion even if player 4 left. So player 4 is not critical. All right, 1, 3, and 4. If player 1 leaves, there's only 5 votes left, so player 1 is critical. If player 3 leaves, there's only 11 votes left, so player 3 is critical. But if player 4 leaves, there's still 14 votes on the team, which means player 4 is not critical. Now, player 2, player 3, and player 4. If player 2 leaves, there's only 5 votes left, so player 2 is critical. If player 3 leaves, there's only 8 votes left, so player 3 is critical. And if player 4 leaves, there's only 11 votes left, so player 4 is also critical. Now, in the Grand Coalition, which is all 4 players, if player 1 leaves, there's still 12 votes. 7 plus 4 plus 1 is 12, so player 1 is not critical. If player 2 leaves, there are still 15 votes, so not critical. If player 3 leaves, there are still 18 votes, so player 3 is not critical. And if player 4 leaves, there are still 21 votes, so player 4 is not critical. So no one is critical in the Grand Coalition because any single player could walk away, and the remaining 3 players would still have enough votes to pass a motion. So now, to calculate the Banzaf power index for each player, player 1, we call this beta 1 for player 1, they're Banzaf for player 1. You count up how many times player 1 is critical and divide by the total times anyone is critical. So player 1 is underlined 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So we put a 5 on top. And then we count up the total times anyone is underlined, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So player 1's power index is 5 out of 12. And then player 2 will also be out of 12. They'll all be out of 12. Okay, so player 2 was underlined 1, 2 times. So 2 out of 12. And player 3 was underlined 1, 2, 3 times. And player 4 is underlined once. Okay, so that is the Banzaf Power Index. My math lab typically wants you to reduce fractions, so this one's already reduced as much as it can be. This one we would rewrite as 1 out of 6. And this one we would rewrite, you can divide the top and bottom by 3 and you would get 1 out of 4. And this one is as reduced as it can get. So that is the Banzaf power distribution for this problem.